I can't say enough about this museum and what everybody has done to make this happen, and I appreciate everything. And as John said, this is my lovely wife, Jill. We've been married for almost 45, and we've been together, though, as of the end of this month, for 50 years. And I couldn't do what I do without Jill. She's part of everything. She's part of making it all work. Everybody's had the feeling of building something up so much in their mind that then when it comes about, they're a little disappointed because they overbuilt. What I'm going to share with you today, I can't overbuild it. I really don't think I can, because this is only the beginning of something that I think is going to be much more widespread. We're making sure that happens. I'm going to share something with you today that took me, well, I've been dowsing for 25 years, right? 25 years, I think, 86. No, more than 35 years. I've been doing this work full time for 25 years, dowsing, teaching dowsing, and offering dowsing space clearing services. Now I don't travel to teach anymore. I did for many years. I don't have the time because I'm home. My full-time work is my remote personal energy clearing and space clearing. The only way I teach anymore is through, I don't even travel to teach except for this special occasion here for the past, it doesn't matter, and one more, and in the last year. But in years, that's the only traveling I've done to teach. But I'm teaching through Zoom and other, virtual ways, which we're doing today too. And through the years, I've come up with something that each of you can use and make an incredible difference in your life. I call it the title, Maintaining Energetic Balance Now and into the Future. But that's with what I call, and I'm going to get to it, my miracle, what I call now my miracle blessing process, that each of you can use to not only bring balance into your home, into your life and your family, but to others. And I'm telling you, there's no telling how many people you're going to be helping when you just work to help yourself on a continual basis. My work started, my dowsing work started as I wasn't really planning to make it my career. It was a passion. And we've all heard follow your passions. I better keep up with the time here. So I was dowsing for some years until I made a new finding in my work. But before I get there, I'd like to go back farther. I've been guided all my life by visions and revelations, helping me see. Early on, I didn't even realize it was happening until I was 21 years old, and I had a powerful mystical experience that changed my life forever, for the better. It's part of what, it was primary part of why I'm here today, why I'm using dowsing and helping people understand the world of energy. Better get my rods handy. Dowsing is much more than if you've heard of dowsing. People think of it as an old-timer finding a water well, a place to dig a water well. Others think about pendulum dowsing, asking questions about anything they want. To me, that's so limited. It's much more than that. These little tools are they're sacred tools, I consider to be sacred tools, to explore in a sacred process, to explore the world of subtle energies, of God's light that's everywhere around us and within us. And this is uncharted. Most dowsers don't use it for this. I've got a fascination you can find stuff that you can't see. And it's all feeding us, and we're feeding that that energy. And we're creating we are energy beings living in a world of energy, and we're creating our energetic world and our every moment of every day. We're changing, we're co-creators with the universe, with the one, the universal one. And so after this first powerful mystical experience, I never thought of all the things that occurred to me that day. It included a very terrifying out-of-body experience, but I learned more from that than the wonderful part of the enlightening part of the life. I came back from that out-of-body experience and knowing, I don't know how, I can't even express it, how I know this, but I knew, what did I do with the water? I knew God is. Whatever God is, God is. And it mattered how I lived my life. And I knew that I had created many problems in my life. Health problems, relationship problems with family and others. And I realized that my problems were an incorrect relationship with self, an incorrect relationship with others, and an incorrect relationship with God, the universal one. And within a couple of years, I had another experience, and I was just told and shown in no uncertain terms that I've been guided all my life, and that I will be there, that I will be guided the rest of my life, and I'll be taught everything I need to know from within, and not by the teachings or not by following others. And that I was told that I could have others, like Russel, as a temporary guide, and then move on. And I do feel that Russel is one of my mentors through his teachings. But again, I wanted so desperately to have a teacher. And I was told that night, I will not have a teacher. Because I will be taught everything I need to know and everything I want to know. That has held true forever. That was I was 21, so that was in 74. In 1980, I had another powerful night of visions and revelations. And I was told that I was running the family business back for that time, an auto parts distribution business, in my father's footsteps. And I was running it with my mother and with my brother and sister. And I was told that that was in 80. And I was told that by the turn of the century, which I didn't even think was the turn of the millennium, I will have sold the business, and I'd be devoting myself to helping others grow spiritually and take charge of their lives. And it happened. On December 30th, 1998, I finally sold the business after 3 attempts through the years. I tried to push it early, but when it was ready, it happened. And then that was in 96.
Backed up. You lost a few years.
I lost a few years. 92, last day of 92. By 97, before the turn of the millennium, I was already doing my dowsing, teaching dowsing, offering space clearing services, mostly on site then. And so by the turn of the century, I was already beginning that, just as that prediction told me. And so I just kept on growing and growing and growing in the work. But let's back up a little bit more. In 96, I was just dowsing. I had my first 2 students, a friend who just wanted to learn about dowsing. And we explored nature together with these little rods. You know, the rods will open and cross when you put your intent on what you want to look for, what you're looking for, and your rods will open and cross, or open or cross for different things for me. And they tell me different things. And we were out exploring where's the little thing? We were out exploring nature in my backyard. And I'm going to take a shortcut. I started finding energy fields around people. I showed him. Then we realized that these repeating energy fields were around plants and animals and trees, natural energy fields in the earth. And then I wanted to map and mark them all out on the ground. So we did so. I'm not going to explain it. It'll just take too long to explain it. But I had found the Russel teachings in 1986, December 25th, and I had been told the first chapter in my book, Dowsing a Path to Enlightenment, which is on the sale up front. First chapter is how I found the Russel teachings. And again, I was told, I was coming home in 1981, so going back and forth here, from the movie Twain. Remember the old movie Twain? They got a newer version of it. I like them both. I was on the way home. Jill was driving, thank goodness, because one of these visions started coming to me. And I saw a shadow, I saw an image of a man that I couldn't really make it out. And I was told that I was to find a series of 4 hardback books that were written by a man that would take the seemingly separate understandings that had been given to me over the years and tie them together in a unified whole. And I was told I had to find those books. I call it the quest for the blue books. Within a short period of time, somebody recommended to me in my search at bookstores around the country when I traveled in business, recommended The Man Who Tapped the Secrets of the Universe. And I said, I've seen that book so many times, but I never bought it. So I bought it. But it went on my unread bookshelf until 3 years later, that day on Christmas morning, I opened it up and I read it in the wee hours of the morning. And I was like, I couldn't believe what I was reading. And I knew I think I read that there was often Christmas celebrations at Swananoa. I waited until a respectable hour on December 26th at 9:02 a.m. I called, and Margaret answered, this British voice, and I told her I would really wanted to order The Secret of Light. But while I was talking to her, I heard a click, and the click was Leo listening in. And then she says, hello, this is Leo. And that began a wonderful conversation. She says, you don't want to start with The Secret of Light. She says, you've got to get the philosophy. And she said, you want to start with the Divine Iliad 1, the Divine Iliad 2, and my book, her book, God Will Work With You But Not For You. And so, again, I've been searching for these hardback blue books for 3 years, and a passionate search, a quest. And I said, okay, I'll order those books. So I ordered them, got them in the mail, opened up the box, and there I saw behind the silver book jackets, hardback blue books. I knew I had found what I was told I had to find. And the Divine Iliad sang to me. I especially loved Volume 1, and it really did do what I was told it would do. It started tying all the seemingly separate understandings that had been coming to me over the years, and what I learned was called partial illuminations. That's what Russell's word term for that. And so the second book, Volume 2, I loved it, but it didn't resonate with me like Volume 1. Years later, I pick up Volume 2 again, and I read it again. I realized I like it better than the first. You've got to be ready for the Russell teachings. If you don't get them at first, put it aside. But some of you, we've been selling the Russell books, distributing them since '97, since I professionalized my work, and I get all these calls of people wanting to buy the science books, especially in recent years. And I did the same thing Leo did. You've got to begin with the philosophy. You can't get the science until you get the philosophy. And the philosophy out of the Divine Iliad is peppered through all the science. And so go ahead and get that first. And even if you've already read the science books, go ahead and get that and read that. And then you'll understand the science better. So I heartily encourage all of you, get the Divine Iliad, volumes 1 and volume 2. If you want to just get a taste, get volume 1 first, and then decide if you want to get volume 2 later. They're always available here. So then I saw, when I going back to the yard, dowsing in the yard, the first thing my friend and I found that I knew was new to the dowsing world, this is an energy field that I dowsed out. Again, I won't go into all the details of what it is. That energy field is real energy that anybody can learn to do it, but it's around every plant, every animal, every person. It's an energy field that is really, well, immediately I knew what I was seeing there. Very similar. I recognized it immediately. I call this my Russel connection to dowsing. I had been studying the Russel teaching. I had been studying dowsing on my own, pursuing it just on my own, not being taught by others for the most part. And that is the next slide. In the wave lies the secret of creation. And that's like a capstone of all the Russell science, to put the original images and charts and graphs and everything in their original colors. And so then, from that point on, my Russell teachings and my dowsing work just tied together and dovetailed all the time. It's continuing, still continuing. And then, years go on, my work is growing in my dowsing work. And it was quite a change going from running a family business and making quite an income to going back and starting over from scratch. I think the first year we made $25,000 that year, a fraction of what I used to make. And then maybe 30 the next year, 32 the next year. 3 years went by. We were making it work somehow. I don't know how we made it work, except for the magic of my wife, Jill. And I could tell more about that story, but I'm not going to take the time. And then time goes on, and I'm exploring the energies. And I used to explore the energies outside in nature. I thought that was so cool, especially at sacred sites around the world. When I traveled, people would take me to sacred sites, especially around England when I traveled to teach. And but in time, I grew to understand the most important energies I need to understand are in our homes. In our homes, our offices, and our living environments, because that's what's affecting us day in, day out, all the time. And so I really started getting into the space clearing work. And when I traveled to teach, people would hire me to come into their homes. And I started doing dabbling in remote space clearing work. And then 15 years ago, we moved into our new house. And something happened. I was already doing a good bit of remote work by then. Something happened in the last session that I did, remote session I did. We were mostly moved into the new house, but we were still in the old house. And something happened in that session that's hard to explain, but it turned my whole thinking around. And I thought, I told Jill, I don't want to know anything about the clients that call for sessions anymore. I don't want to know anything but their name and their address. I don't want to know if they have a family. I don't want to know if they have what problems they're having, because we used to gather all that information. I said, all I need to know is the name and address of the person that I'm going to work with. And the way I do my remote work is I connect people's energy patterns, and we're about to get to that. Within a few years of of dowsing. After I made that first discovery, I made another discovery. When I started dowsing inside homes, I started finding these repeating patterns, especially around beds. All the beds in our home, our bed and our 3 children's bed, I found the same pattern around all the beds. And that pattern, that's the beginning of what I found. And I didn't know what it was. And then I started dowsing. Whoever let me douse around their beds. I started calling on my local family members. Can I come and douse around your bed? Friends, can I come douse around your bed? And then when I started, as I continued teaching, people would hire me to come in their homes. I would always end up all the work exploring the energies and teaching. When I was actually doing the clearing, I was spending most of the time teaching. I'm first a teacher, then a doer. And so we would always end up in the bedroom dowsing this. And then in time, I found that 2 more pairs of lines of energy that I just drew in. The person who did this for me, Carolyn Ferris, that original art, the file was getting too huge because it was 3D stuff. And so I just drew those in. I found 2 more, and these are mated pairs of energy lines. And then I'm asking, see, I didn't have anybody ask, what's this all about? What I would do is I would ask of the universe. I would concentrate. And then I would decentrate. And sometimes, just like Russell, I used to focus on what I want to find before I discovered Russell teachings, what I wanted to learn, what I wanted to accomplish at work, and imagine it happening. And then I would just take my little relaxation. Jill and I take what we call relaxation 2 or 3 times a day, more sometimes. And that's where a lot of the inspiration comes. But when you're ready for knowledge and understanding to come, it comes in an instant. It took me a while. I had to get ready for this. But then all of a sudden, I'll skip that story too, because that's a story in itself. We had heard a speaker come through Augusta on the teachings of Kabbalah, Jewish mysticism. And he had a series of books that he was selling, and we bought some of those books. But I woke up, but I hadn't read them. And I woke up out of a meditation, and I was just being told, I had like this compulsion. You must reach over to your unread bookshelf at the head of your bed and grab one of his books, Lawrence Kushner. And the book was Honey from the Rock. And I was told, if you just open it to any page, you'll get a message about your work. Well, I opened it to the beginning of chapter 7. But cool, I thought right away, mystical number 7. But anyway, the whole chapter seemed to be talking to me about my work. And so then I just knew I could integrate what I was learning in that chapter into my work. I could demonstrate what was taught about in that chapter, and I could use quotes from the Bible, quotes from famous Jewish sages, we're Jewish, and to authenticate my work, to validate my work. And when most people use it to say, oh, dowsing is satanic or whatever. And so then I said a little prayer of thanksgiving, and I closed the cover of the book, and I realized what I was finding around beds was the tree of life in Kabbalah. And I'm not going to go much into the tree of life. You can just look it up, and you can ask me about it. We'll be here all day today. But that took me in that really tied to my ancient Jewish roots. And the tree of life is a quick thing. It's supposed to be the first act of creation. God's supposed to, or the eternal is supposed to have, is taught to have put this as the first act of creation. Everything in creation is patterned after the tree of life. And so it's within mankind, around mankind, and it's supposed to repeat itself endlessly in the energies of creation. That's how I was finding it. And that I was finding it just like it's described in the ancient teachings of Kabbalah. Through the years anyway, I find it everywhere. So I'm always looking for this repeating pattern in all my work. And so then, as my work just continued to grow, I had another major realization. And I realized, I was taught that the energies of the home are separate and in distinct, meaning of the energies of the earth, electrical fields, especially the energies of the earth, according to the dowsers teach and do, are if they're in our homes, they can cause problems in our life, and they're separate and distinct from us. Because these energy grids that are in our homes can be detrimental or out of balance, and they can cause all kind of problems for the people. That's what space clearers do. They try to create more energy environments, but they see the energies of the earth and the energies that are in the home as separate and distinct from our energies. But something happened in another thing, in an act of working with somebody in the home, which I won't go into those details, but I realized, wait a minute, it's all coming from us. From the very beginning, not only was I doing dowsing, I combined dowsing with the blessing process. I use dowsing only to find energies and figure out what they're about and all that, and what they mean, and what the energies are, but I would change energies with the blessing process and make them beneficial. But then I realized all you got to do is change the people's energies with blessing by blessing the people in that home, and all the energies of the home come into balance. They clear. Then over time I realized that really didn't last very long, because the people hadn't resolved their issues in life, so those troubles would still come back. And so time moves on, I'm learning more and more, my work is growing more and more, but 15 years ago I discovered something that I call interference energy. And interference energy, I'll give you a quick summary of it as I understand it now. When we go through traumatic and difficult times in life, we can open what I call a crack between the worlds, and energies in the astral plane or the next dimension can connect to us. Once that happens, I've already mentioned to you, the energies within us reflect and extend out into our homes. So once that interference energy that connects to us, it reflects and extends out into our homes, and sets up as vertical columns of energy. And for some reason, there's an article about it in my website. And you're going to get information about it. But my website is dowsers.com. And I've got an article about the interference energy and one other major cause of energy problems in homes. The article's called Things That Go Bump in the Night. There's a link, because these energies can cause all kind of problems for people. But remember, they're brought in by people. But they can also get to the point where they cause paranormal activity. So don't let it scare you when you see that, because for most people, when you're reading that article, for most people, it doesn't cause that. So I learned within a few times of finding it, back 15 years ago, I learned how to clear it or remove it. I would take my rods, and I would douse into that vertical column and get a dowsing reaction to it like this. Or it could be like this. It doesn't really matter. And then I would hold the reaction, which meant I was connecting to that energy. Now remember, the energy is really within one or more of the people in the home, and it's reflected out to the home. The microcosm in us reflects out into the macrocosm of the home. So I said a blessing then to basically do whatever is appropriate with this energy to bring healing and balance to the complete beings of all who are affected by the energy. I couldn't figure out how to do it on my own, and I just turned it over to God. I figured God and nature knows how to do this. Immediately, it disappeared. And all the energy problems caused in the home just disappeared in a more lasting way. But then the people were, all the energy problems caused by the interference energy connected to somebody in that home were gone. But then over the time, I would go look for imbalances in the pattern, which we'll go into. Let's go to the next one, I think. Each rectangle represents this doesn't always also have a pointer. Okay, look at number one. Okay, the top 1 through 4. The rectangle represents the bed. The reason I have it around a bed, we have this energy pattern around us. We always imprint it where we sleep, but we always imprint it anywhere we lie down on a physical structure, raise it off the floor, even for a second. We lie down, we stand up, we leave an imprint of that pattern. And the top row, the rectangle represents the bed. The top of the rectangle is the top of the bed. The bottom of the rectangle, the foot of the bed, the head of the bed. The bottom of the rectangle is the foot of the bed. Okay. The top row represents typical imbalances. I only draw in the imbalances or discordant energies in the energy pattern. Almost everybody has at least some. But the top row represents typical or normal imbalances at various stages of life. So when you're born, we're born, unless something's really bad wrong, with no imbalances in our energy patterns. Within a few years, we get a minimal imbalances because I think it's because we're starting to realize we have struggles with our family, with our peers, with ourselves, just even as little kids. And we start getting the minimal imbalances. Then in a few years, we get imbalances like number 3. By the time we reach puberty age, about 12 or 13, we get the typical, or you might call it normal imbalances of an adult. And that's like number 4. That will stay with 99+% of the people on the planet for the rest of their lives. Just from my working with thousands of clients and doing thousands of clearings, I sorted all this stuff out. The second row, all of those images represent energy problems. We're going to skip number 5 because it's not relevant to what we're talking about today. If somebody has interference energy connected directly to them, their energy pattern will be totally out of balance like number 7. The pattern goes well beyond the tree of life. It repeats itself around every one of you here in this room. It repeats itself outward about every foot from the core pattern. And from your bed, and from wherever you slept last night, your energy pattern is imprinted there, and hopefully it looks like number 4. But other people, if you're staying in a bed that's not your bed, like we are in a little B&B, which is lovely, by the way, you're laying in other people's patterns. The problem there is the primary or first way we attract this energy is by entering intense negative states of mind and emotion. But it's like an energetic virus, especially if you're prone to getting it, and most people are at least prone to it. You can catch it from others. Now, so anyway, what I learned back just a few years ago, I figured a lot of this stuff out. Some person that has number 7 has interference energy connects to them looks like number 7. If everybody in number 6, it basically is everybody else in that person's home. Number 6, if they don't have interference energy, that tells me if somebody that's being affected by interference energy connected to somebody else in their home or somewhere they're imprinted, like a hotel, a B&B. So once I removed the interference energy from a person, I began checking all the other patterns in the home. Remember, I'm only connecting to one person, the client that's going to be on the phone with me. I'm only connecting to that person's energy pattern, where I place it with a blessing around my bed, our bed. And then I connect to all the energies of the home. And you can read all about it on my website, how I do all this, how we do you can go to what I call my remote space clearing services on the top menu. Read all about how I do this. But other people will show up in places in my home, other places, other beds, and when I run out of beds, other pieces of furniture. And I've learned that tells me something about the relationship to my client, or the head of the household usually. And so I've learned that once I remove the interference energy from the home, if anybody or everybody often nowadays has a number 6 imbalance, that tells me they're being connected, they are imprinted somewhere else where others have interference energy. And they're being affected by that. And if they stay that way long enough, they can attract it from them, not only from people in your home, but from where you leave your imprints. And you leave this cosmic trail of your own self all over the place, not just where you lie down, but that's I don't know all the ways we imprint. But for example, I think we can imprint anywhere if we have an emotional flare-up. And we are all connected to each other. Number one, all of our energy patterns in this room merge together into one big pattern in this room. We are one in this room. There's another pattern that represents that's the building. We're also one in the building. Other people that are in other parts of the building, we're all connected to them through the one in the building. You're also connected to everybody anywhere you've left your imprints. So when I realized that number 6, even once I remove the interference energy from the person or people in that home, and the home itself, if anybody still had a number 6 imbalance, which nowadays is very common, and I'll try to explain why. What I would do is I'd connect to that person's energy pattern, just one of them. I'd say a blessing to follow this person's energy pattern back to wherever the person is imprinted or connected, where others have interference energy, and replace the energies in my home with the energies in that home. You know, somebody asked me yesterday if I was sensitive to the energies. I'm really not. Meaning, for example, what we might call as detrimental, harmful, weakening energies, I don't really feel them. Jill doesn't either, like my clients do, like people who are empathic, very energetically sensitive. If I did, I couldn't do this work because I'm bringing that into my home several times a day. So I would follow that, and then I would clear from there. And then I would choose one of those, and then I would look, so wherever I was, I would remove the interference energy. I'd find the people, because they typically show up around our beds in our home. We have 3 guest bedrooms around, and our bedroom on that wing of that part of the house. And so I would follow, and then I would see if anybody still has the number 6 imbalance, and I could tell in an instant by checking the energies of the homes if anybody has the number 6 imbalance. Is another story. A lot of stories are wrapped up in this story, the whole thing I'm sharing with you. And I would clear from there. And I would often go 3, 4, or 5 houses, or could be doctor's offices, hotels, no telling where I'm going, right? But I would clear all the way up till everybody in the home or place would end up with, after I removed the interference energy, nobody had more than a number 4 imbalance. And then I did all that in like a 1-hour session that I'm still also talking with my client, learning what's going on with them. I learned how to do this stuff real fast. But what I was doing, if you think about it, I was only following one branch when there's no telling how many places all of you are imprinted right now, right? And so I was only clearing one branch of this big tree. And I'm going to share that with you and give you a visual of that in a moment. But I was doing that because I knew it could follow back. If one of those people, if I didn't clear all the way up, it could come right back down the line and reinfect my client. This is really going on day in and day out. And so the reason but what was happening again, if you think about it, compare it to a tree of life. I mean, a family tree in genealogy. You're there. Your brothers and sisters are there if you have them. Your father and mother and grandparents, your cousins, your great-grandparents. And you know that tree gets pretty big pretty fast. Now imagine that same tree, but instead of following bloodlines, you're following connections to your own energy patterns where other people have interference energy. We're connected to all those people. Way up the line, people we have no idea who they are or where they are or what's going on. And especially, again, you stay at hotels, you go for a treatment where you lie down on a table for a massage or a doctor's examination table. Anytime you lie down. And by the way, I'm going to give you tools to take care of yourselves. And you're going to be able to keep you're going to be able to not only bring yourself into balance energetically, but I'm going to give you tools to maintain that balance. And in ways you won't even know what all's happening, but if there's energy problems affecting you, the proof is in the pudding. You're going to feel it if you just do what I suggest you do, which is so easy. So anyway, so imagine this big tree again. And of all of people that could be anywhere in the world that you're indirectly connected to, I was only clearing one branch. And then I would go back to my client's home, bless the client and the family and all the energies of the home, and break any connections to anybody in that family where they were imprinted, where there were energy problems, and especially interference energy, which is by far the most common. And then, not too long ago, actually June of last year, it started getting frustrating to me because I understood this so well. But we had done 3 to 4, let's say an average of 3 retreats in our home for 15 years. And since I found this interference energy. So we had done 14 years at the time. We had done over 40 retreats in our home. We have a member of the group here that has attended one of the retreats. And she attended it. You can talk to her about coming to a retreat if you like. She'll tell you what it's like. So it was getting frustrating to me because everybody that came to our 5-day retreat, so over 40 of them, they stay with us. We cook for them, great meals, by the way. I teach in the daytime. We get to know each other better at night. And after 40 retreats, everybody learns much that if they choose to, they can go home and help themselves and others in life with dowsing combined with the blessing process. But not one person in all those years had confidently and to learn to go home and successfully and confidently find and remove that interference energy on their own, whether it was in their home or other people's homes. And you have to be a very good dowser and a person who really understands my work a lot, very well. And for many people, it was getting so complicated. But I'm always trying to simplify. Now I've got it broke down and give you a little hint into the future. Basically, one blessing process, my miracle blessing process, coming up. Okay, so as I said, I purposefully now use for many years concentration and decentration. Put it out there what I want to understand, because who else could answer my questions? Nobody in the physical world could answer my questions because it was all new stuff to come into me. So in that frustration, I had a retreat in October. Again, I could tell before they even left, they're not going to be able to go home and find that energy, even though we worked with it. We removed it from in person in remote sessions we conducted on the 4th day of the retreat. Not one person could go home that I knew about could go home and find it. And I said, they're not going to be able to do it. So after they left, I got frustrated. I remember lying down to do my little relaxation and relaxitation. We just basically lie down, let go, and let God. And, Russell said, for example, you want to forget the body and forget the the physical world, the physical body and physical world, and for short periods of time, and remember our divine heritage as spiritual beings of light. And you want to now, Russell could meditate while he's doing his work, while he's doing his sculpture. And I realized I'm basically meditating while I'm doing my dowsing. They've proven that dowsers with EEGs and dowsers enter a different state of consciousness, of brainwave activity while we're dowsing. In fact, it activates all the alpha, what was it, delta, beta, theta, and delta, wait a minute. All those activities get coherent, all active at once while you're dowsing. And so I thought, okay, I've got to figure out a better way to teach it. Now, sometimes I put things out there, and I have to do it again and again, and the answers don't come for years. And then finally the answer comes to me in a vision. The reason is for years, if I had the same vision earlier, I wouldn't understand the vision. Okay, but when you're ready, when you've got all the knowledge and all the understanding, all the information, you just haven't put it all together, and you ask the right questions or set your right intent, the answers come like that. And so I thought, I've got to figure out an easier way to teach this. I didn't even have to go into my relaxation. Immediately, a better idea came. And I thought, well, you see what that energy does? It sets up in the home, as I said, in vertical columns of energy. And for some reason, it'll set up in 2 different bathrooms, in 2 different places in the bathrooms, if there are 2 bathrooms on the same floor of the home. And it'll set up in a closet for some reason. The only things I can think of that would why that is water energy, the water element in Chinese teaching, yin energy, or the water element. And so I want to give you the sequence of events of what happens. And it's really not a sequence. I'm going to describe it as a sequence, but it all happens simultaneously. When a person attracts interference energy, it reflects out into the home. It sets up its vertical columns of energy in at least 3 places in the home, all water-related kind of things, or yin energy-related places. It will then simultaneously cause all the energy grids in the home to be detrimental and out of balance. And those energy grids, dowsers call Hartman and Curry grids, but I like you to visualize things. Like I got you to envision this vertical column of invisible energy. It's about 1 foot in diameter. It'll be right inside your bathroom door, right at your bathroom sink, or right at the toilet bowl. It will then cause these energy grids to be out of balance, and I call them a checkerboard grid and a diagonal grid. So if you can imagine a checkerboard grid throughout your home, all the lines about 6 feet apart. Easy, right? Then a diagonal grid, all the lines about 6 feet apart, and intersecting all the intersections of the checkerboard grid. By the way, you look at all that grid, you'll find repeating. I have another slide I can show you, but I don't have it in this little sequence. The tree of life repeats itself endlessly in those energies. Those are earth energies. They're really around the earth, but they change when they come in your home, when they're in your home, when they hit the walls of your home. It will also cause everybody else's energy pattern again to look like number 6. And all that happens like in an instant. And then it causes all kind of problems. The most common thing is sleep problems. Another problem, if you don't feel as good in your home as you do when you're away from home, big hint, you've got interference energy in your home connected to you or somebody in your home. It can also cause nightmares among, and especially children and adults. But children often see beings, because what these vertical columns are, and if you don't believe in spirits and things like that, sorry, they're really there. It's like reincarnation. Do you believe in reincarnation? No, it just is. We all reincarnate. So what these vertical columns are, I call them doorways to the astral plane. And what they allow is this kind of being, what I call a negative being, a spirit being. It allows them access into your home. They're in the next dimension. For the most part, they cannot bother us or the energies of our home, but once somebody attracts this interference energy, which is more prevalent in the world today than ever before because of what's been going on the last few years with the world government spreading fear around the world, with the COVID situation, the political situations here in the United States and elsewhere. Canada thinks they have worse problems politically than we do. Then you got England, the Prime Minister, and I think half the cabinet has already stepped forth. Well, the Prime Minister was forced to step down. We've got a new Prime Minister now over there. And then in Japan, the president this Prime Minister recently got assassinated. Not to mention the war in Ukraine. And all of Europe's really nervous about that because it's right there. And so you can imagine this interference energy. And I could see it in my clients since COVID started. I could see it that there's more and more people with interference energy. It's crazy. And almost everybody, even after I clear the interference energy, almost everybody in the home is imprinted or connected to other places where there are other people with interference energy. So I got the idea when I just said, I got to figure out an easier way to teach it. I thought, once we connect to other people's homes and my students have learned enough by that fourth day of the retreat, maybe, I know you have to connect to the energy. I always thought you had to connect directly, nothing to it with my rods or hands. Nothing else I tried worked until that time. But I thought maybe we can connect indirectly. If we can connect to one of those grid lines that almost all my students learn to find, and then say a blessing, to follow that energy back to the source or cause of its imbalance, which is interference energy, and do whatever's appropriate with that energy that's causing that imbalance to bring healing and balance to all who are affected by the energy. It worked just as well. It cleared all the energies of the interference energy from everybody that had it in the home. Still left the people that were affected elsewhere, like number 6, and that's almost every time I have a session now. It did not used to be before COVID. And remember, it's not COVID, it's the world's reaction to COVID, it's the fear, all that stuff coming in. And so the next retreat in the spring of 2021, the other one, if I said it wrong, fall of 2020 is when I got frustrated. Spring of 2021, 6 people attended. We can handle no more than 8. All 6 people were able to do that, clear the interference energy in 6 different clearings we did on the 4th day of the remote. I thought, wow, I've got it. But I realized I would say more than half of you in this room are either directly or indirectly affected by interference energy. You don't even know it. Nobody knows about this. It's like an energetic virus that nobody knows about it. I call it a silent pandemic. I would say well more than half the people on the planet right now are either directly or indirectly affected by interference energy. And so even when I got this new thing, 6 people all learned how to clear this energy. I said, nobody's going to do it as avidly as I do. How are we going to make a dent in the energies of the planet, of the whole, all the population on the planet? Because I can't teach enough people to do it. And I thought, then after that retreat, I'm excited, but I thought, now I've got to figure out a way anybody can do this. If you don't know anything about dowsing, if you don't know anything about energy, if you don't know anything about spirits, or if you don't, metaphysics, anything. And it came to me. I thought, well, I'll use the same thing. Same method. Look over here. Now I wish I had a little laser pointer. Look at the lines above. If all the lines in 6 and 7 that are beyond number 4, that are not in number 4. Okay, So I realized we could connect to any of those lines. I should be able to connect to any of those lines and say that same blessing, to follow it back to the source or cause of its imbalance and finish that blessing. But I wanted anybody to be able to do it, not just me, not just people who knew how to find these energies. And I thought just about anybody can stand at the foot of their bed, put their hands just over the foot of their bed, right in that energy line going across the foot of the bed. If you notice, in 5, 6, and 7, the energy lines going across the head of the bed and the foot of the bed are drawn in as out of balance. Remember, that's your energy pattern. So I figured anybody should be able to stand at the foot of their bed, put one or both hands, what I came up with one hand, and then I came up with a blessing, and I thought this should work. My next client. Okay, this is where it really gets good. My next client was a mother of a 13-year-old child, or of a teenager, and they're the only two people living in the home. The teenager had interference energy, the mother didn't. So the teenager's energy pattern looked like number 7, and the mother's energy pattern looked like number 6. I have a way to temporarily neutralize the negative effect of the interference energy on all the energies of the home, the people in the home and the energies of the home. And I do that with a blessed object. When you bless an object, a substance, or a person, you're charging it with energy. When you define what you want to accomplish in that blessing with your intent, by stating your intent, then you're defining the frequency of energy that you're putting in that substance, that person, or that object, or what you might call, what we know now is no such thing, empty space, like a place you like to meditate or whatever. You have an altar or whatever. You could bless that. But anyway, so I would hold an object in that vertical column, any object, it could be a penny, anything. And I say, bless this object and charge it with energy to neutralize all the negative effect of that energy on the home and the people in the home. And I put it on the floor right in that vertical column, which is just inside the doorway of our hall bathroom. That column is one of them in our home. Then I can look at the home as if the interference energy wasn't there. And I could tell the mother's energy pattern immediately returned to number 4. That meant she was not imprinted or connected anywhere else that had interference energy or any kind of other energy problems. But the daughter only went down to a number 6. She was imprinted somewhere else where there was interference energy. So I thought, okay, I ought to be able to do this from anybody's pattern in the home, because I could do it from the mother's pattern. I don't want people to have to know who has the interference energy either when they do this blessing process. So I put my hands just over the foot of the bed where I connected the mother's energy pattern. And I said that same blessing. Basically, dear God, I like to say, or however you address I'll tell you the words I use. If it be thy will, may the powers of nature converge to follow this energy field back to the source or cause of its imbalance and do whatever's appropriate with that energy that's causing this imbalance to bring healing and balance to the complete beings of all who are affected by the energy. And immediately, amen. Thank you, amen. Immediately it worked. I could tell the mother's energy pattern, I doused real quick, returned to number 4 imbalance. I knew then I had to go check on the daughter's energy pattern, which had appeared on a bed in one of our guest rooms. So I went to that pattern. I got a big surprise. She had already returned to a number 4 imbalance, which meant, with my understanding, by definition, not only had I removed the interference energy from the daughter by the blessing I did at the foot of the mother's energy pattern or bed, my bed, her pattern, I had also removed it from all the people anywhere the daughter was imprinted or connected, because she no longer showed interference energy affecting her. So after testing it, I've tested it several times. I'd go not only 1 level up, but I'd go 2 levels up, and I'd go 3 levels up. The way I described earlier, following the energy pattern back to wherever that person was imprinted with there is interference energy, replacing the energies of my home with that energy of that. And the most I've gone so far is 4 levels up. Then I get my client. I will have already taught them. Most of my time on the phone with my client now, it's like a mini seminar, getting them to not only do this blessing, which they could just do by following the instructions on a written page, but I want them to understand what they're doing, like I'm helping you understand what you'll be doing. I hope all of you do it, and so I've gone 4 levels up now, and I get my client to do the blessing at the foot of her bed, and it cleared 4 levels up. So it cleared wherever I was, not only her home, but all the way up. So what? I have another slide, the next image. There's a girl reading the blessing and the instructions from a piece of paper. And now we go to the next one. Here's an image of a tree of life. It actually shows a tree, which I always say tree of life when I mean family tree and genealogy. Now, I don't want to block anybody's view. So let's say you are in the middle. You're imprinted. Whether we go up or down, it doesn't matter. Let's say instead of following bloodlines, you're following energy line connections that are these invisible connections to your own energy patterns wherever you're imprinted. And then it goes on following to other people and other people and other places, and it goes probably endlessly. And what one blessing said right there at your own bed will clear that whole tree. Will clear everybody you are indirectly or directly connected to. And when you do this, if everything's fine, all it's going to do is make things better, because you're going to, in the blessing, you're also going to bless all the energies of the home. You're going to bless all the electrical fields. Believe it or not, people are so afraid of EMF. You can bless the electrical fields radiating from any device. It will make it instantly beneficial, and it'll stay that way. Your devices aren't thinking, emoting beings like we are. And so they will stay beneficial. Once you get used to it, you can bless all the energy. You can bless one at a time, and you can bless all the energies of your home. All the electrical, those, you don't have to worry about it anymore. But I still do it in every blessing. I include it in every blessing. So, but believe me, if you're not affected by it now, you will be. Let's raise hands. How many of you have had anybody, either yourself or anybody in your immediate family, that has had any kind of major illness ever? Okay. Keep your raise. How many has gone through any kind of traumatic experience? Anybody in your family or yourself? Okay. How many of you stayed in a hotel room in the last few weeks or months? How many of you? Okay, it's basically everybody. If you don't have it affecting you now, it's going to affect you. Just like if you hadn't caught the virus yet, you're probably going to catch it. It's spreading like wildfire out there. And for the most part, it's not as bad as we're led to believe it is, in my opinion anyway. Okay, so now comes the sales pitch, right? Where I'm going to sell you something. No. You can buy my book if you want. Got my rods here. They're coming in a little pouch. I even put an extra antenna. By the way, just in case you buy my rods, they come apart and fit in a pouch. They're little antennas. You don't stick it in that hole where people try to do. You extend the antenna. You put that hole here, and then you got a full dowsing rod. Best rods I've ever found. I also have my father's story down there. So I have a little bit of a sales pitch. Dad was a Holocaust survivor. He spent 4.5 years, 5.5, from the ages of 16 to 22, he was in concentration camps and ghettos. Lost his whole immediate family and almost all of his extended family. But I'm going to give you right now everything I shared with you today with the blessing process and many other blessing processes, easy to find. Write this down. It's going to be real complex. You just search, any search engine for Joey's Blessings. I just learned that a couple of months ago. So cool. Joey's Blessings. We didn't do that on purpose. Through the years, I got this guy, my tech guy, he's helped me with all the SEO stuff. You know, we used to be at the top of the listing for Walter Russell, for dowsing, for other stuff we do and sell. And I've lost all that, but it don't matter anymore. Then somebody said, I just found you by searching your blessings. What? Joey's Blessings. It'll take you right there. We'll be number 1 on the list. And then you'll get my miracle blessing process, which I have for you in the viewing audience and for this group here. I have on the back, if you print it front and back, it's a 2-page thing when you open that one up. The back, the first is how to do it with instructions, and then the blessing, which will also all fit on 1 page. Then on the other page, I did it last night and today, and finished it up. Well, finished it last night. It's maintenance, detailed maintenance instructions, which will help you know what to do, how often to do it, let you know what to do when you go to a hotel room, what to do when you stay in somebody else's home, what to do if you or a family member are in the hospital, and when you get home. So it gives you everything you need to know on 2 printed pages. And you've got other blessing processes, electrical field blessing processes, and it's all free. You know, don't worry about that. Okay, I think it's time to wind up. I think I did pretty good. I mean, staying in the time. Even though I got started a little late, I stayed within the time, got it all in. Thank you so much. Thank you all for being here. Keep supporting the teachings. Tell others about the teachings. The Russell teachings are incredible. Now, there are many other teachings that are incredible, but I was guided. The first chapter of my book was how I was guided by that vision to find, on the way home from seeing the movie Twain, to find his teachings. There's a purpose in that. You know, follow your heart, follow your passions. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Hello, everybody. This is John Bonsall, President, University of Science and Philosophy. I want to thank you for participating in our wonderful 2022 homecoming, moving into the future, living a life triumphant. So if you would like to reach out to us, we would love for you to visit our website at philosophy.org, and anything that you could do to help us promote this message throughout the world would be greatly appreciated. And thank you.